Hey, what you guys are about to see is something that Kevin and I have never done before, but we're always trying to think of new or interesting or valuable ways to talk about Muay Thai. And so this is something that we came up with. A lot of people have said that when they are watching the Muay Thai Library sessions, sometimes they just kind of listen to it. So we're putting up just my commentary from the second Kru Diesel session, which is in the Muay Thai Library. We have two with him. So you can actually learn a great deal just by listening to my commentary as I'm talking about what's being taught, what Kru Diesel is showing me or explaining to me, this kind of thing. My commentary on Muay Thai Library sessions is quite involved. I explain quite a bit about what's being taught, what's happening, translating, things like this. And so we're putting it up just as the video of me giving the commentary, and you can actually learn a great deal from it. So that's very cool. You can see this for free. This is free for everyone, getting the information out there about this incredible Muay Khao clinch tripping style that Kru Diesel is so famous for. If you are a patron, you can watch this session in the Muay Thai Library that has my commentary as well as the video of learning from Kru Diesel. So you can actually see what he's teaching me as well as hearing my commentary explaining what's going on simultaneously. Even for $1 as a patron, you can see the most recent 5 sessions, which would include this one at this time that I'm making this video. So yeah, there's tons of information in the Muay Thai Library. This is the second Kru Diesel, and just watching for free my commentary as he's teaching me and explaining things, and you can actually learn a great deal just from listening to it. So I hope you guys enjoy, and if you want to watch the session as I'm explaining it as a patron, click on the link in the description below. It's very easy to become one. So Kru Diesel has been at this gym for a couple of months at this point, but it's really great because when he moved, he actually just got like a full new batch of fighters who are established fighters, but they've all been inactive for a little bit of time. The reason for their inactivity is various reasons. Part of it is just COVID in general. People have been much less active, but so he's kind of like reviving a whole group of fighters. Sylvie and I get right into it. I used to go up to Chiang Mai and clinch with him at the gym he was working at the time. I'm using his own long clinch against him, which is bold because he's much better at it than I am. But here Kru Diesel's jumping in to make a correction. So see how he's tucking my head in, and then he's gonna adjust. See how I kind of had to come around so that when I turn him, I'm off balancing him, but I'm also opening him up to land that knee. In clinch, 2 things you always want to be doing is off balancing in order to score, and off balancing after you score to basically defend yourself so that they can't just get that point back. So as Sylvie is trying to like grab me on that side, Kru Diesel is telling me to, as I'm being grabbed, off balance him. It basically spoils his ability to lock me. I've got like kind of an arm hook. That's a position I find myself in a lot, so this is really good for me. If you do not yet have an arm hook, you can pull the neck from that side. But see how I'm not even grabbing behind the neck there? That's just 2 arm control positions. So Kru Diesel is saying to come around and push the face. So you're basically going around your opponent's arm. See how he's making my shoulders not the same level? I'm squared up with my shoulders, and he's like, not like this. If you pull with your shoulders square, you don't get as much leverage as if you pull one shoulder back. It opens up his own body, but it throws his opponent much far. Look at that. See how he gets to the side? He's saying this is good because we're shorter. I'm shorter. He said for short fighters, this is a good way to get out of the clinch, or to turn in the clinch. You don't want to get out of the clinch. So there I timed when Sirichai was coming to knee me and I pushed him off of me. Look at how he follows me when I turn him. His feet follow in the clinch, so I can't off balance him for long periods of time. And here he's just tucking his head into my jaw, and it takes so much of your power away. It makes any of your power moves to try to get out of something very hard. See how he tucks into his own shoulder and bicep there? I was able to make enough space to create that knee there. This is really how you want to be clinching. You don't want to be doing clinching drills so much. You want to be doing kind of like moving with someone. And the way that he comes in and makes a correction because he sees a point that's a weakness, he shows me, lets me try it, and then I have to like work it in. It's not something that you're going to drill over and over again. If you're very new to clinch, it makes sense to drill things, but the minute you're done drilling it, you need to put it back into the context of free flow. Otherwise, you'll never find yourself using it at the right moment. Timing in clinch is really important. So my arm is on the outside. Because I'm on the outside, I'm gonna push Sirichai's head. A lot of people pull in the clinch. Pushing is also a really good, see that rip? And again, Kru Diesel is showing how you like extend your shoulders and really twist them. If you keep your shoulders like Batman and just turn like a square like this, you don't get the same leverage. You want to like pull one shoulder back. Karahat also teaches this in the Muay Thai Library many times. He has very, very wicked shoulders, Karahat, in the clinch. There we go. That's really good because Sirichai is taller than me. So if I can not use power but move him as though it's a power move, that's really good. Kru Diesel's laughing because Sirichai has gotten his head tucked in like a little tick now, and Kru Diesel knows once that happens, there's not a lot you can do to get out. So because I'm stuck under Sirichai's lock, he's basically like arm locked me. Kru Diesel is going to show. So Sirichai's got one arm over the elbow, and then Kru Diesel's got one arm kind of locked under, and he does this little twist. I have a hard time with this. Chicken Man in the Muay Thai Library, Kru Guy Pet Trung Rung, he teaches this as well, but it's a little different. You go inside the person's thigh, and you basically just pop their leg. You don't have to lift it, you don't have to knee it, you don't have to do a lot. You just kind of push it, and then you turn the opposite direction. See how Kru Diesel used that after a knee? So he knees, and then that same leg, as it comes down right inside Sirichai's thigh, and he can turn him right off of it. Especially because it's very likely that your opponent is going to knee you back after you've just kneed them. You're basically baiting them and scoring at the same time. It's really good. So this position that Sirichai has with me is what I call the frame, and he's got it down pat. So my options, because he's got the inside position here, is just to do what Kru Diesel's been talking about, which is push or pull where my arm is behind his head, but I'm stuck. So tall fighters like to get in this kind of like face smush position. So Kru Diesel's showing when someone face smushes you, arm hook. This is really good if you're a shorter fighter, because people are long. So he's pushing my face. This is a terrible position for me to be in because he can land to my open side, can knock me out. I look really bad because my root is broken. So basically, I want to hook that arm outside and then latch his arm. If you want to see another example of this that's a little bit different but really good, Nam Sak Noi, I think his first session in the Muay Thai Library, has a really nice like elbow up, rip down. So see how there's lots of transitioning. I have a dominant position, then I get into a non-dominant position, and we have to kind of like move back and forth. Look at how Kru Diesel tucks his head in like immediately. This is really important for protecting against cuts, but it also helps your balance. He's showing the same turn that he did before, where you kind of like punch your thigh into the opponent's thigh, and twist in the opposite direction. It's a tight twist. It's like a, what do they call it? The Russian twist that you do with like a weight. See how far away my thigh is from Sirachai's thigh? This means I have to like find the moment to get it in there. I tried to do the turn without my thigh touching his, and I just had to use more power and he didn't go as far. See how he closes up his shoulders? It's really good. It makes it hard for him to be, he's not grippable. Sirachai's doing this thing with his hands like this in the clinch. I've always told people don't do this because you wear gloves and it's just, you can't do it with gloves, so don't train yourself to do this. Diesel Noi, who knows a lot about training and clinching, he says that's fine to do during training, so if it's not a hindrance to you, do it. Putting my hips deep in, but not close enough to his body to do that turn. See this little lock? He's like hitched a trailer here and it's very hard to get him off. And he's got his forearms on my collarbones. This is a really difficult position to move someone from, because if you keep your elbows on the front of someone's body and your forearms in their collarbone, there's not a lot. You can't really come in, you can't really come out. I'm able to score, which is forcing him to change position, but he keeps getting into the dominant position. Like, I can't get him off of his dominant position. And then I start laughing, which makes it harder to do anything. Oh. This is really good. Clinching where you kind of like come out of it for a second for little like leg kicks or entry points. You want to work on your entry into the clinch. If you separate sparring and clinching too much, your body actually assumes different positions between them and you can't really integrate them very well. He's showing me how I can get out of this lock by using his shoulder. He's actually pushing Sirachai's grip up with his shoulder. It's a little break. So I'm saying to him, I know that shoulders are really important, but I'm lazy when it comes to my shoulders. I don't close my neck fast enough or often enough. I just make it harder for myself, really. Oh, see how he's forcing my body in that direction so that he has this big open rib that he can land on? His roop is really nice too, as an example. He's getting scored on a lot, but he doesn't jump out. Like, he doesn't show the effect. In Thai, this is called agan, and it's another word for like symptoms, but you don't show the effect from what your opponent's doing to you. And it helps in how Muay Thai is scored in Thailand. Oh, I tried to push his arm down an elbow there. Okay, so we're coming to the same position we were in before. I've got my hand on the outside of the opponent's arm. You want to be inside like this, like hooking to the outside. If you happen to be on the outside coming in, Kru Diesel's showing how you can push that arm down and land an elbow. So usually, if you're on the outside, you're going to try to come inside. Once you're inside, they're going to try to come inside, and you use that opportunity . He's saying if you have both your hands on the outside, it's easy for the opponent to slip up and grab your neck. So see how I have an inside position, which means I can grab Sirachai's neck. So what he's showing is that from that outside position, you kind of roll. You roll to break the opponent's grip, and then you can pull them into you and keep them very close. So many people clinch like this. It's terrible. You can be controlled very easily from that position. It's a temporary position, that's okay, but people stay in it. Kru Diesel is just saying there, if you stay on the outside like this, you can never come up to the neck. This to here just doesn't happen. This to here does. So he's correcting where my hands are. My hands were kind of on Sirachai's biceps, which I can't control him from there. So he's saying, go ahead and bring your gloves or your hooked hands like up to the shoulder. Then as your opponent is coming to score, you actually have access to like elbows and kind of a chon, this like crashing points. He got his head in, and there's nothing I can do about that now. Oh, see how he like drags me down with it too? Now he's just pinching my arms in. He's got like a double arm hook. Diesel Muay is really good at getting into this position. He's got long arms too. So again, Kru Diesel is instructing me to use my shoulder to help me change positions. If you're gonna turn, use your shoulder to like force pressure and leverage. See how he's like basically turning Sirachai's body? He's like rolling him inside. Use your shoulders. Oh, he's on the outside, which is a non-dominant position, but because he's using his shoulder against my forearm, he's basically just squeezing me into a little like curl on the inside. You have to time those a little bit. That's why you want to put it into the context of actually moving around. So he's showing when you have an opponent who turns. If you're the one going backwards and your opponent is coming towards you, you wait for the knee to come and you just kind of like scissor turn it. I think we were all surprised by how easily I did that. He's saying actually I can be the one coming forward too, because a lot of people like to back up, and then fire a straight knee. It scores really well if it lands. So you can, but see how he moves his feet a little bit to make the rotation really strong? I'm setting it up by pushing on Sirachai's chest, which is gonna make him turn harder. Oh, almost. It's okay if he doesn't go. He was off balanced, and that gives me an opportunity to change position or land a strike. Kru Diesel just told me I'm Yod San Chai. That's the name of Sao Sing's husband, who likes to back up and elbow. So Sirachai's actually got his forearm across my eyes like this. I can't see him, and he can just collapse it into an elbow anytime I try to move. It's a good position. So this is the thing, you want to work this into your clinch because you kind of like change distances, but you don't want your clinch to just become sparring because you're trying to stay out of it. Clinching is for clinching. You want to clinch. You can take moments to take distance so that you can work on your entry or to like disengage and re-engage, but don't let your clinching turn into, you know, just leg kicks and like keeping someone off you. His head is in again. You can't really see it. Oh, you can't really see it, but when Sirachai knees, it hurts, and then he puts a little bit of a pause before he throws the next one, and it makes you feel like you're drowning. Like, you can't protect yourself, and the next one is so, like, at the right moment, rather than it being like a pump, 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 pump. It's very overwhelming and scary. He fights at like 114 pounds. I've known him since he was like 14 years old. He used to come into the gym I was at in Chiang Mai, Lana. He wasn't part of Lana, but he would come clinch with our boys. He's very diligent. He is like the heart of Muay Khao. He just did those knees I was talking about where it's like one and you're like the next one's coming and then it doesn't. And then when you're like ready to breathe again, the one you thought was gonna come earlier comes. Kru Diesel's really brilliant because his whole thing is Muay Khao. Like, he's very pure in it, and so he can take people who are strong in it, who have this tendency and who have talent in it, and just like raise them up. It's amazing. You don't have to be Muay Khao to work with him, but if you're Muay Khao, it's like that's the guy you want to go to. All right, so now we're getting into the pad work. Pad work with Kru Diesel is a lot of fun. He's very fight oriented and he's very animated. Look at how close he stays. This is really good for Muay Khao This is good for all styles, but it's really good for Muay Khao because it forces you to invest in how to move your opponent. And if they don't move, you're like not deterred by it. You just keep coming in. There are different schools. He liked that turn. There are different schools of pad work in that most people want you to just throw with full power a lot. Some people want you to be faster, in which case you're going to have to take your power down a little. Kru Diesel wants power all the time. Right where he's showing me here is that when your opponent shoves their hips in, which is a protection from clinch and knees, you basically, because they have to stand so hard to push their hips in, you basically use them as scaffolding and jump up a knee like that. This is really good, especially for me. I've had opponents who are so much bigger than me and they push their hips in like this, and it does make kneeing them really hard. He timed it and turned me. So I was a little bit uncertain how to solve that, and he's actually the second person now recently to show me that when the hips go way in like that, you just grip with your upper body and do a jumping knee. So I'm trying to do this turn and then knee, and I didn't go far enough. So he's showing me how to basically clip the standing leg out while you're turning someone. So if you're turning and spinning someone and you kind of like clip their standing leg as they're going, they'll fall over. I spun myself out too far. This is part of what I was saying about his pad work, where you want to stay really close all the time. That takes training. That takes a lot of effort to learn how to stay stuck to someone all the time. Samson Hassan, if you want like the most sticky fighter who ever lived, Samson Hassan is like napalm. You just can't get him off. So he's basically reading what my distance is, and then he's not verbally calling for anything. I'm reading what his pads are doing, but it's basically very fight oriented because he's seeing the distance I'm at, and then what he holds for, I'm like, oh, obviously I need to kick. So my brain, without thinking, is learning to read these distances as well. Really, really good padmen shape you as a fighter in non-verbal ways. So I did the like wall of China against his leg, and he just like scooped. So this is the same as what he did when Sarachai was coming towards me with the straight knee, and he's like, you just scissor move them. If I'm trying to block his knees with my shin barred across his body, across his thighs, you can do exactly the same thing. You can just twist someone. So he was showing me that instead of putting my shin across both thighs, which is what I did, and that's how he like twists me, if I put one leg, see how my shin is against one leg and I push against it? He can't do that scissor move because I'll get stuck between his legs. So this is what he's showing me before. When I do that turn, I'm not twisting my shoulders enough. See how he raises his shoulder up for that turn? Oh, it's so good because he doesn't spin out this way. He stays right next to me a little bit. He almost goes like behind into my blind spot. He's rolling me into his chest. There we go. It's fast. Yodkun Pan's really good at this. He does this to me when we're working together. So I'm having to work in the clinch, like moving my arm position, but he wants the knees to be coming between things as well. So the off balancing, the grappling for position, the moving of your feet, all of these things, scoring has to take place in between all of them. He waited for me to knee and then just scooped it to the side and threw me on the ground. This is such a beautiful example of like non-verbal training, where you basically, you have to be aware enough to when he does something to me, I have to figure out what position was my body in that made me susceptible to it, and what was he doing so that I can steal what it is that he just did. See how he like, his head position and his shoulder position is so important for how he breaks that lock. If you're a knee fighter, you're gonna be clinching a lot. If you face someone who locks well or grips well, breaking that with your shoulder. See how he's pulling my head towards him and pushing his shoulder forward at the same time? That completely snaps the grip that someone has with their forearm. It hurts, man. He knew that knee was coming. So see how his forearm is at that weird angle? That's why I need to pull and shove my shoulder forward at the same time. He wasn't anticipating that one. I basically just pinned the bottom of my foot to his outside foot and like rolled him over it. See how he couldn't get his hand in, so he decided to just put it back on the flank of my body and push me that way. He's very relaxed. If he can't go where he was trying to go, he just goes to plan B. A lot of people, if they have something they're trying to do, they're trying to knee, and they're like, that's in the way, I can't knee. They have no idea what to do. If you have a very calm plan B, you just move to it. You're like, the rock's in the way, I'm gonna step to the right of it. It's like not complicated. So he's showing how when you turn, you wanna bring your hips back on the turn, not before. If you bring it back before the turn, now you're 50-50 susceptible to the knee. If you bring it back as you're turning, they can't knee you. And as you land with your hip back, you have lots of power on your knee. That was what I tried to do just now. Now he's putting his hips way in, and I'm supposed to be doing this jumping knee. I'm so afraid to do it because I think he's gonna sweep me on it. I've been swept so many times because my clinching partners are so big and skilled. See how he just pushed my arm across my own body and again rolled me to the inside. That's if your opponent's arm goes across your body. This happens when someone is doing this like squish face. Sang Tianoi is really, really good at that move. Sang Tianoi teaches me that in the Muay Thai Library and in our free session at his gym that's on YouTube. Sang Tianoi's tall, so the face smush is very good for tall fighters, and as a shorter fighter, just kind of like rolling them off of it is a good solution. He tried to kick out my standing leg because he thought I was coming with a knee, but I actually was doing a leg kick. So see how he just did that? He was at a little bit of a long lock, and when I kneed him, he went backwards to create a distance that I then had to do a much longer knee off of. That's that engage, disengage in the clinch. Oh, he's so good at getting that like head in grip. The head in protects him from a lot of things. He wasn't anticipating that either. The head in protects you from elbows, but it also helps you have more power in your position. You don't want to go too far over, but then if your head isn't in, that's when you push with your shoulder. It's either head in or shoulder. Oh, he just moved my arm right out of the way there. He's like, get that out of my face. So this is clinch entry. We were doing pads before, and now this is like a mixture between clinch and pads. So here I'm pushing on his face on the outside here. Because his arm is on the inside, he can't do that push across. So I want to kind of like twist him on those when my arm is on the inside. So I'm saying you don't have to use power, but you have to be fast. And he's like, yes, when you like roll someone, when you change sides really fast, you don't want to like muscle it, but the speed is what creates the kind of like pop out. See how I have his arm gripped? He's really good at trapping the arm against his body. If you watch our first session together when he was at FA group, he's really good at trapping the extended arm against his shoulder, which is actually, when you get someone really long like that, it's a really good way to do what he just did and like scissor. See how he just casually changes which arm he's gripping me with? It makes him very hard to clinch because I can't lock him in one position. Like anytime he switches which side he's gripping with, I have to readjust too. Good. Ah, that's what he's been trying to get me to do. That was good. He stands up when he does that turn. My hips were back a little bit there, which makes me need to use power. He's saying you can elbow as well from here. So see how my arm is extended like this so he can just collapse it. Head in. He knees to the open side, and then he's got this elbow that's already against my arm. This is very much Yod Kun Pan. Yod Kun Pan plays this game of whack-a-mole, which is basically knee, elbow. This is what Kru Diesel's showing me here. So see how my elbow is already over his arm because I'm on the outside. I'm outside hooked over his elbow, so I can come over. He's saying as soon as you even throw the elbow, whether you land it or not, people are going to be like, oh shit, elbow, and they'll put their hips back, and that allows you to knee. And then they're like, oh crap, I just got kneed, and so they'll stand up, and now you have the elbow again. That's why we call it whack-a-mole. So he's saying Pompet, who's a fighter now, is really good at this. Pompet. Oh, nice. He keeps anticipating that my knee is going to come up and he's trying to trip out my leg at that same time. It's really well timed. It would look really dramatic if he were tripping me as I'm trying to knee him. So see how I pulled him? He liked that. I pulled him, and as he was kind of lurching forward, I threw the elbow there. This is really good when you have a Dern fighter. As they're stepping forward, you can kind of scoop their legs out. He was trying to trip me there, and I managed to trip him instead. I'm not entirely sure how that worked. That's his fucking... So that he did the same trip when he comes to the inside of the thigh, but he went to the outside of the thigh and just turned me. If you go to the outside of the thigh, you pull. Look at this. So you time it with someone kneeing. So he's saying that you know he's about to knee because his leg comes outside. So as his leg comes up and he's on one leg, you just twist him around the standing leg. Like same time, you just twist his whole body. So he wants me to feel where I have an open access to those elbows. Muay Khao is very tiring. All right, so he's showing me again about this like barring across the thighs. This is something I've been working on as people are durning on me to kind of like snuff someone. He's showing why this is not a good idea. See how he's like breaking my root? He's pushing me back, and then he can just kind of like scoop my leg to the side, and it's very easy to solve. The women I fight love to just get on the rope and then bar my thigh like this. So he's showing me how to get out of this like this. They love to go against the rope and just stop me like this. He's like, just take a step back. He's like, you can punch over it, or you can just take a step back. Don't grind into it. This is a really big thing for Muay Khao, is that if you're facing female fighters, they can make you look kind of ridiculous, like you're just like running and can't catch them. So when you finally get into a position where they're gonna try to corner you, you really just wanna like punish them or like step off and re-engage. So learning how to like disengage, re-engage is really important as a Dern fighter, whether you're Muay Khao or Mat or Book, whatever you wanna do. But if you're the one coming forward, you wanna look like you're not being trapped. Kru Diesel is saying back in the day they just pop you off the rope. They don't do that as much anymore, but it's still something that referees will do. So there, see how he just kept pushing me? If I had put my shin on one of his thighs like he showed me earlier, he's showing how you can elbow over this depending on which leg they're putting up. He pulls me And then as I'm collapsing forward, I'm going to land into his elbow. This is the other leg. And he actually just grabs the back of my calf and takes a step back. And now he's basically like caught a kick that I didn't even throw. So another option is just to kind of like push me off. I like this one. I really like this. You just grab the back of the leg and take a step out. It's like, what could I do off of that? It's just like uncurling a pig's tail or something. So this is against the ropes, right? If someone's against the ropes and you do this and you grab their thigh and you go, or you grab their calf and you come backwards, you can just pull them off the rope. It makes them look very bad and makes you look really good. He's showing that if you have answers to someone putting their, we call it the wall of China, if you have answers to that, it actually becomes like a really lame move. If you just like grind against them and don't do anything, it becomes like a really effective, really cool move. Oh. See how he just uses this, like, he'll come forward and then he'll kind of pull me back, and he's just getting me used to sticking to him regardless of where he's moving. So now at this distance, I want to teep him, kind of juggle him, and then I can close that distance with a knee and grab him. It's a nice turn. I had to learn how to follow and like attack off of it. You basically don't want to learn to be uninterrupted in anything that you do. You want someone interrupting you all the time. It's to be unperturbed by those interruptions. That's what you're learning. So he's saying that I'm not like chipping my shoulder forward enough. You want to like turn. There we go. If I pinch my shoulder up, I can keep my body closer to him instead of like spinning out and having to cover that distance again. When he does it, he actually ends up kind of like in my blind spot where he turned. See that? How he's like on the side of my body? He rolls me to the inside. Oh, and then I was too far away to land that knee because I spun myself out. Now you see why. He just gripped me as I was trying to go out, and because I took too much space, that's what happens there. You don't want to take space as you're doing that turn. You want to stay like stuck to people all the time. He said this about Pet Boon Chu, who he built in our first session together. He was like, Pet Boon Chu just blocked and came in and grabbed a knee. It's the only thing he ever had to do. He never kicked. If you're a Dern fighter, blocking is the way you close distance. Yod Witch is really good at that if you watch Yod Witch's third session in the Muay Thai Library. So this is about body locks. This is how to get out of someone locking your body. He puts his shin up on my thigh and then just hollows out his middle. I'm putting my ass back, but I'm not actually hollowing out my chest. I want to kind of drop my weight too, because it forces him to drop as well. And then he's saying that after you've broken that posture, pull. Like, but he like rips. It's like a rip. See how he like pulled his weight down, which breaks mine, and then he pulls. Because when your opponent's in this position and you pull them, they're going to go. So we're discussing how in today's Muay Thai, grabbing the waist doesn't give points anymore. It used to be that waist locks and flips and stuff, you got points for. He's like, you don't get points for it anymore. But being able to like break and move, people look at it, they see it, it looks really good, even if it's not giving you points. It's still like the way Joe Hong Tong would say, make some mention. So picking up the pads again, this is taking everything we just did that was like kind of clinch pad work and putting it back into the like, how are you going to close distance to get to these things that we were just working on. See how he comes after me after I've landed something and I just kind of have to resist him. That's how you stay close. That's how you like don't have to keep doing an accordion of like kick and back up, knee and back up. You don't want to back up. You don't stay on someone, force them to back up. Oh, he's so much fun. Finding a good Muay Khao pad man is just, if you're Muay Khao, it's just the best. So you have to pull back a little bit in order to make space for that elbow, like that. You don't want to step back, but you kind of pull back so that you can collapse in with it. He never anticipates my trip rips, which is cool because I do them all the time. So the people I work with know that I do that. It's newer to him. See how I have to kind of like change sides? And then he pushed his hips in, so he wants me to either off balance him with that rip or do a jumping knee. Look at how he folds himself down for those knees. You'll get this with Muay Khao pad men. It's so that you can like grip and land another knee, because once you knee someone, they kind of get in that like hunched position. There we go. Just one shin on the inside. He calls himself Kru Diesel. Referring to yourself by your own name is very common in Thai language. So like me saying Sylvie's tired rather than I'm tired is totally normal. He said Kru Diesel Yompe, which means like I give up. Like I give up on this pad work. He trains Muay Khao all the time, so it's, to me, it's a huge compliment that I made him tired in any way at all. He is so hardcore though. He does this for like 5 people in a row. If you ever think you're badass, like if you ever think you work really hard, think about your trainer who does that for like 5 or 6 people in a row every day while you like go on the bag and do your shadow or like whatever the thing is. Pad men are just hard. So I'm asking him something about contemporary Muay Khao, because I've worked with Diesel Noi, I've worked with Samson, I've worked with Golden Age Muay Khao fighters, and Muay Thai has changed so much from the Golden Age to now. Scoring is very different. So I'm talking to him about how Diesel Noi says that in rounds 1 and 2, you don't really bring out your weapons, you let your opponent do it. And then in round 3 is when you really start like breaking them down. And I'm like, do you still do this as a Muay Khao in contemporary Muay Thai scoring? And he's like, yes, it's still the same. So he's showing me how to basically just block as you kind of cut off the ring and make your opponent run away from you for 2 rounds. So he's saying that if you're fighting someone as Muay Khao, I'm Muay Khao and I'm fighting someone who's not, he's like, if you try to Muay Khao in rounds 1 and 2, there's no way you're going to be able to overwhelm them in rounds 4 and 5, which are the late rounds that you want to be kind of really dominant in. So in rounds 1 and 2, you're kind of like keeping your stores. You're not using all of your ammunition, all of your energy yet, but you want to be kind of tiring out your opponent in this persistent hunting way. He's talking about Yotin. So Yotin's southpaw. And he's saying that when he fought Wan Chalong, so he's saying Wan Chalong is southpaw, and that basically Yotin just had to block for like 2-3 rounds. He basically just had to block Wan Chalong's kicks so that in rounds 4 and 5, he could just Muay Khao his way to victory. So he's changing me to southpaw. And he's showing how a southpaw is just going to left kick all the time. This is an advantage of a southpaw fighter against an orthodox fighter, is that their power side goes into the open side. So they have reason to just left kick all day. This makes it easy to just guard your open side, and he's saying you can just catch it, push it, block it, whatever. You only worry about this side of your body being scored on, blocking, and then you can go in and Muay Khao in later rounds. So I'm like, if you're gonna fight like this, you have to have really good defense. I'm like, how do you train this kind of defense? He's marching me down and basically just interrupting any of my teeps or straightforward leg attacks by keeping his knees coming up like this, and then he can just block his open side. He pushed me all the way into the ropes, and then once I hit the ropes, he yanked me back to the center of the ring. As a Muay Khao fighter, you don't want to be broken by the referee. When fighters get put in the ropes, the ref will come and break it pretty quickly. They don't break clinch in the middle of the ring. So he's saying stay in the middle of the ring as Muay Khao. Look at his flexibility of body. Like when he first grabs me, he pushes his hips way in, and then he'll pull it back so that he can turn me or land a knee. And they're not dramatic movements of like, now I'm here, now I'm here, now I'm here. It's just a flexibility. I love that he has as much joy throwing me the first time as the 10th time. Like it's funny every single time. Look at how he keeps his elbow on the front side of my body. This is really important. And then he's just rolling me. So he's saying he knows I'm going to try to knee him. So he's timing it with my knees, and I don't want a knee because I don't want him to throw me. So he's like, I'll just do it without you kneeing. But his hand comes under, like kind of under my shoulder and pops me over. So this is when someone tries to come kick the inside of your front leg. You just pull it back and then kick with it. Look at how he he's in a bad position because he's on the outside, but because he's turning, he's kind of twisting his shoulder forward. I can't do a lot because it forces my body to turn with him. He's breaking my root just by pushing his shoulder forward while I have a dominant position. Jia Yin Yin means like calm down, or like don't get too excited. Like don't try to change position too fast or pull too fast. Like take your time to feel the right moment to do something. I'm controlling on his biceps again, which he had corrected me when I was working with Sirachai. And because my hands were on the inside, I could slip up to his neck and do that turn. So he's showing me how you can do that turn, whether it's the right arm or the left arm. But your feet have to go. So he's saying don't let someone lock you. That's why you want to have this kind of pinching of your shoulders all the time to not let someone get a grip on you. He's like, as you saw when you were working with Sirachai, once he locks you, it's really hard to solve. So first line of defense is don't get locked. This is Sylvie talking, but this is the same thing that Kru Diesel was just talking about in terms of like defend yourself. In order of importance, defense, technique, power. So when you're clinching, when you're grabbing, whatever the thing is, stopping someone from getting that lock in the first place, number one. If you didn't stop them, you didn't block, technique is the next solution. And then after that, if the technique is not working, you use power. You try to overpower someone. Look at how he does this constant flexing in and out. I don't have that. It's really beautiful. So he's showing how I'm on the inside, so I can come with this Tatmala upward elbow. See how he pins my hand? That's what I was talking about earlier. He just pins it to his body and then he can actually elbow over it. It's so good. 21, still funny. Still loves it. His twist is so perfectly timed. Like it looks like a power move, but he's actually not using any power at all. He's just timing it so perfectly, and it has this really dramatic visual effect. It's aesthetically a power move without actually being a power move. So we're just taking a water break and having a chat about where I'm going later in the day. Everyone knows everybody. Everyone knows everybody. So I was telling Diesel that we were going to go see Ajahn Surat later in the day down in Bangkok. Sao Singh is kind of like a little protege of Ajahn Surat, and now Sao Singh is working with Kru Diesel. So there's this, like, we work with the same students, and different trainers bring out different things. So it's actually really interesting when you get one person who like has influences from various places. He's talking about building fighters, because he built Pet Boon Chu and Yotin. He's talking about how in the first year, when Pet Boon Chu had like entered into the Bangkok stadia, in the first year he was only making 10,000 baht as his kadua, which is that's a pretty like low level fighter to be making 10,000 baht for their fight. But he is saying that he built him so that within, like, I think it was 3 years or 5 years, he's saying he was making 100,000 baht on his fights. This is a big deal. You don't have to engage in these conversations necessarily, because we don't know a whole lot about it. But when trainers and fighters are talking about the esteem or the success of any given fighter, they talk about how much they get paid for their fights, because that shows how in demand they are. That shows kind of what level they're fighting at. So that's what Kru Diesel's very proud of, is building Pet Boon Chu from a 10,000 baht fighter to a 100,000 baht fighter within a couple of years. So here's this trip again that I have a really hard time with. Look at how he just like dips his knee into my thigh. He's hitting right above my kneecap. Like, it's in the meaty part right above the kneecap. And he's not kneeing me, he's just bending his own thigh, bending his own knee. Ha Jang Wat means like find the right moment to do it. So I'm kneeing. He can turn me on the knee because I'm already on one leg. If I'm not on one leg, if both my feet are planted, that's when you do that kneecap into the thigh, because just popping it is going to force the heel to come up a little bit, and that's what allows you to twist them. You're like forcing them to be on one leg, even though they're not consciously on one leg. They're like, I'm not kneeing, I'm not doing this, I'm on 2 feet. And you just kind of like lift it a slight bit and then turn. So the firmness of your grip on the upper body and how tight around your own body you're turning the upper body is what makes that an off balance versus an actual just like flip around. That has to do with the upper body. But the lower body is just popping into that thigh. That's a hard part for me, is that that balance with the upper body being so tight. Karahat does that too. Karahat has amazing turns, and it's the tightness of the twist in the upper body. He held on to me and got right back up. You don't want to let your opponent do that. So he said good when I like pushed his thigh out, and he's like good, even though he didn't go, because he felt the speed of it, the little pop of it. But I didn't do the upper body part, which is why he didn't go. Ah, better. Better. This is the thing I'm saying to Kevin. I understand it. Intellectually, I understand all the little pieces, but you actually have to find the right timing, which is all feeling. It's entirely feeling. He like pins me to his own body and turns. It's so tight. He's being like, I'm bigger, so that's why it's easy for me. It's, yes, that's true. But no, like at my size and his size, I should be able to spin him, because it's not a power move. See how it forces my leg up into the air? This is really good when you're at a standstill. There are some trips that require your opponent to be kind of moving towards you, like the scissor ones, or if you like pin their foot and twist them over it. Those are good when your opponent's coming towards you. This one works really well from a standstill. You can still do it if your opponent's coming towards you. You can almost always trip someone who's coming towards you. But this one is for when you're like jockeying for position in a neutral spot. He's showing how to rip from a lock. He said he's currently trying to teach that to Sirachai. This is perfect for Sirachai because Sirachai is amazingly good at locking. Once he locks, it's that like gator grip where like once it closes its jaw, you are not getting that thing off of you. But he can't do much other than keep you locked and maybe land some knockout knees from that position. Being able to turn someone, dramatically twist them if they're trying to get out of your lock, that's what he's trying to teach Sirachai right now, and that's what he's working with me on, is that from the locked position, you just rip. See how he pushes his shoulder in too? His shoulder is so pushed in that from a rip, he's got his head, see how he puts his own head like into his elbow? What? I'm laughing so hard because when he ripped me, my neck went like pop, 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 pop. It was like slightly horrifying. When I get it right, you'll hear him. So I'm pulling towards the arm that has the forearm on the back of his neck. If I go the other way, because my head is on the side, if I try to go this way, I'm actually going to get stuck on my own head. I have to go towards... That sound is how you know it was correct. So he's saying in a 5-round fight, try to do this in round 3 because it just shoots you to being ahead. It's such a dynamic move. It shoots you into the lead, and then you don't have to try so hard for the rest of round 3, 4, 5. If you're like trying to get into a lead and trying to take ahead, this is basically the like nitrox boost that like pushes you ahead of the pack, and it makes you hard to catch score-wise. See how he pushes against my my lock there? I have to get in the habit of doing that automatically. I kind of am lazy about leaving my neck open. I happen to close it off because I grip with my left hand. So on my left side it happens to be closed, but you have to have mobility in it. And when someone tries to grip it, you close it. Oh, he's totally timing this like I can see it. There. That knee went through his pad a little bit. So the reason he was making me do that rip right there is that I was in a locked position, which is really dominant, really good. I'm getting my scores in. But because I'm in that locked position, he can time when my knees are coming and go under my shoulder and pop me over. So instead of letting him do that from my locked position, I don't have to change out of my lock. I can rip him to the side and basically beat him to the same dynamic movement he's trying to do, but I do it. So he's talking about locking. So see how I'm getting tucked into my elbow here and my head is like pushed against his jaw? I'm tucked in really tight to the point where he doesn't have many options. Where he put his hand to tap me, he was basically telling me go, like he was basically triggering me to go, but that's where his hand would go if he's gonna try to twist me. So I wanna beat him to the punch. I have to keep my head tucked in. Already good, already good, but tucking the head is better. So he's saying that having a lock against Muay Khao is really important because they're trying to be at the same distance that you're at. A lock against a femur fighter, you're just shooting someone who has a knife, like you're just not playing with the same weapons. But Muay Khao against Muay Khao, whoever has a better lock and a twist in the lock, you're fighting with the same weapons at that point. So I was talking about how when I would watch Sarachai fight back in the day when he was Tanadet, we were kind of worried about him in some fights, but the minute he would lock, you're like, oh. Once he gets his long clinch in, we're like, this is done. You don't have to worry about it. We had watched a fight the other night that someone had tried to do Sarachai's long clinch, and we're like, oh my god, he has the long clinch, this is going to be great. And then he stopped doing it, and the opponent solved it in the same way. He did the same like flip because he didn't know how to rip from the lock. He ended up losing the fight, the guy who had the long clinch. So this is really good for training purposes, is that you've already gone through all of this very fatiguing work, and then you come back to power pad work, which is like you have to have this kind of intensity late in a fight, because people who don't do this kind of work drown when you're able to bring the fire back up late in a fight. But you have to train it. So I lost my balance there in being able to throw the elbow. So you want to, as you're coming off of things, feel whether you're balanced to throw the next thing or not. If you're not balanced coming off of a knee, you can't throw an elbow or turn someone or whatever. The balance at the end of things is really important. Ah, there's a push off an elbow. That was nice. I missed my opportunity for that kick and he took it away from me. He didn't stay there. So this is why you want rips. See how I'm tired now, and so I'm throwing these knees and I want to off balance him so that he can't emerge and like do something dynamic. I basically want to keep him having to rebalance himself. It's like, fuck the pads. We're back to Muay Khao. 22, still funny. This is brilliant. Look at his Dern on me. Late in a fight, when you just have to keep bringing the intensity, you're tired, you want to be taking distance to be able to breathe, you have to learn to like relax. 23, still funny. He's saying you can do this from either side, left or right. See how he comes in and he raises that knee up, which keeps me from being able to kind of juggle him or score as he's coming in. If he comes in and doesn't get scored on his way in, it makes his ability to take a lead. 24, still funny. It makes his ability to take a lead just like pulling away. It takes something that's kind of close and makes it a blowout. So you want to basically like use your shield and your sword. If you don't have a shield, you're basically like chinking swords together over and over again. You're both scoring. If you can guard, if you can block on your way in, you're like shield, shield, hack. It's really good. This is the sign. You want to listen to your trainer's sounds as you rip them or do whatever. They're like, what's the word? They don't intend to do it. The sounds they make just by the power you're doing or the non-expecting of being turned or something like that. And when they sit down like this after a round and you're like, all right, I'm tiring them out. It's like a reflex. It's really good. So he's saying that there's differences between Pet Boon Chu and Yotin and like what kind of knee fighters they are. Pet Boon Chu just block, block, get in, clinch, kill. Yotin has more of a like outside game to work his way in, but Kru Diesel is talking about how the difference is partially just what someone's like nature and personality is, but it's also reach. Like if you have long arms, using a really long kind of snuffing thing like this is good for you. If you're very short and you're trying to snuff someone and they're longer than you just get kind of like pushed back. So the year that Pet Boonchu won Fighter of the Year was the same year that Sirochai, who was Tanadet at the time, was Rising Star of the Year, Daurung. So Kru Diesel in that year won, I think, I don't know if it's best teacher or like best like builder of fighters. He won an award across Thailand as like having created Pet Boonchu. And that same year when Pet Boonchu won, he won, Sirochai was a little rising star at the time. I think he was like 15 or 16. He had probably just been sold down to his gym in Sriracha. He's talking about how next year, when the gym has kind of a soft grand opening, they're going to have a lot of superstars there, like Samart, Kong Torni, Diesel Noi. Oh, nice turn. Finally figuring that out. I'm not spinning myself out. See how close I have to stay? And you're basically, because you're getting into someone's blind spot and not spinning out too far, you basically have created a big, flat, open side for you to nail them right in the belly button. Ah, it's a nice elbow off of that. Knowing all the weapons you have at this range when you're trying to stay in this range is really important. You can't just knee from this range. There's elbows, locks, twists, punches, body punches. 25, still funny. So he's saying use your shoulder. So see how he's overturned on me? When you overturn, it's very dangerous because I can pinch up and now he's kind of stuck at his own jaw like this. Look at this position he takes in shadow, how he like goes behind his own elbow. That squeeze hurts. So when you get like a lock on someone, when you squeeze, it's gonna go backwards. Like I said, listen to the responses and you know whether that was correct or not. So I gripped him and then just threw him backwards. My knee went kind of to the back of his thigh, but I mostly was ripping with the upper body. You have to figure out through feeling when you're doing these turns, when you have one arm behind the neck and one on the arm, you have to learn to feel the tension to get a grip on both pulling the arm and pushing the neck at the same time as you turn. Oh, there's that rip. Technique Kru Diesel. He's like, good already. The technique is important, but the timing on it is more important. You can fuck up the technique a little bit if the timing is right. Ah, stayed close on that one. Oh, he's looking for 26. I think he's gonna get it. Look at him pin my arm. He's just totally relaxed. This is what he said to me earlier when he's like, Jia Yen Yen. He's not panicking that he's in this bad position. He's waiting because when I try to capitalize on it, it creates an opening for him. That's what he taught me before. Just grab the leg and pull back. It's so beautiful. That was good. I'm peacocking a little bit, trying to make him a little gyroing on his dern. This is something you have to look out for. I just suffered this. When you turn someone and you come to the outside, you have to pay attention to what your offhand is doing. Don't let it flop to the side as you're kneeing. It's very dangerous and looks bad. Oh, upward elbow. Got him back though. Look how calm he is. Now he's just tired. 26. I was trying to come back to it, but that's enough there. We'll let that be enough. He's very happy. That makes me happy. I'm tired too. This is something Diesel Noi talks about all the time. Diesel Noi says of all kinds of styles, no matter what, Muay Khao uses the most, like, has to work the hardest in order to have that style. But it's good because you drown people in late rounds. That's what this work is for. It's like what Muhammad Ali said. He said that when he's doing sit-ups, he starts counting when it hurts. Like, the stuff before that doesn't matter. It's once you get tired as a Muay Khao fighter that the work you're doing is actually pretty important. I love that pit bull. She didn't want anything to do with me. He didn't want any pets. I love Kru Diesel. He's amazing. If you're Muay Khao, go see Kru Diesel.